Hey everybody, how's it going? These are my 5-star reads of 2024. Of course, it would make more sense to do this at the end of 2024, but I never really do anything on time here, so whatever, I'm just going to do it now. Maybe some of these books will be interesting to you if you have not read them. I always like recommending things and also getting recommendations, so anything sounds interesting here that you think I might like based on these books, I would love to hear from you. Couple honorable mentions, which I guess kind of defeats the purpose of a 5-star read list, but whatever. First is The Yiddish Policeman's Union by Michael Chabon. I read this around October, or no, sorry, August. And this is a really, really funny literary novel about like a detective living in Alaska, kind of like a safe haven place for a group of Yiddish people, big Yiddish population, and the Alaskan state is taking control again. It's just a very, very funny novel. Chabon is a very unique writer. He's pretty popular. I mean, he's written a number of books, but I've never read him. I'd check this one out. I thought it was really good. Highly recommend this. Another recommendation, honorable mention, if you will, was a book that completely took me by surprise, probably my most surprising read of the year, and that's a book called Wellness by Nathan Hill. This was great. This is another literary. There's a theme. They're all literary fiction, but this is like a family drama, family saga. Two married people throughout their life, how they just go through managing life and marriage together. It's told from the two perspectives of the husband and wife, so it shifts perspectives like every chapter, and it also jumps around time periods of their life. So it's kind of like a fractured narrative, but it all comes together in the end. It's one of those books. I thought it was extremely well written. It was funny, just a great, enjoyable read. Totally took me by surprise. I pretty much bought it because of marketing and the cover, which I think is cool. He has another book called The Knicks, which I really look forward to reading. And this guy's great. I highly recommend this book. I can't wait to see what he does next. I have two that are I read on my e-reader, so I guess I'll throw like a thumbnail up on this blank white wall over here. Let me move over. And that would be Negative Space by B.R. Yeager. I've talked about most of these on this channel, but man, Negative Space is a great, great read. B.R. Yeager is a totally under the radar author. He needs a lot more. He needs to be known more than he is, I think. Fantastic writer. This is an incredibly uh, dark read, I'll say. It's transgressive horror. It's very strong subject matter. It's about a group of young teenagers that are basically very cynical, depressed, using drugs, and they're using this weird new drug called Whirl that has potential, like seeing into other universes. It's definitely hallucinogenic in nature. It's a dark book, but it's very powerful. It's extremely well written. It's unique in the way it's written, where it is told in the first person, but there's POV changes mid chapter. It's very unique. It's very surreal. It has a very hallucinogenic quality to it where you're not actually really sure exactly what's going on all the time. Sometimes a lot of it is just atmospheric writing. It just totally captivated me. I've also read B.R. Yeager's book, Amygdalatropolis, which was definitely a more challenging read just in terms of the density of the prose and what he was going for. I've also read his short story collection, which is probably his most accessible work if you want to check him out. If you like dark, dark transgressive horror, definitely check him out. Like I said, strong subject matter. And the other 5-star read for my e-reader was The Silence of the Lambs by Thomas Harris. I had never actually read it. One of my favorite movies. I thought it was going to be a great thriller. It's just incredibly well written. There's truly beautiful passages in the book, incredibly well written passages that were like poetic to read. But also just damn, what a good story! Way better than the movie, and the movie is magnificent. So what more can I say? I really look forward to reading Red Dragon. I know I'm going out of order with those books, but that's what I did. By the way, real brief aside, I got a new e-reader. I got a Kobo Clara black and white. Here's what it looks like. Decided to retire my Paperwhite because it had scratches all over the screen and all sorts of bullshit going on with it. So maybe I'll do a video on that Kobo. Let's get into the 5-star reads for the physical books I have. The first being The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I love Donna Tartt. I have reviewed, I believe I've reviewed The Secret History, which is another 5-star read. I loved that book. It was fantastic. That is a dark thriller. This is like a coming of age drama with a sort of heist aspect to it. It's about this young kid named Theo, and his mother passes away unexpectedly, and he has to go live with his friend in New York City. Very rich friend. So he's kind of living the high life a little bit, but throughout all of this, he's holding on to this painting that he cherishes for sentimental reasons called The Goldfinch. This book takes you through his life from young child to young adult, and it's so unbelievably well written. Tart is just a great, great writer. Her prose is amazing to read, poetic, but easy to read. But this book is funny, has amazing characters, and the story is great. And I ended up liking this more than The Secret History. This is just one of my favorites. It's a big book. It doesn't look it, but it's about 750 pages. It's a pretty big book, but man, this was a great book. I still have to read The Little Friend. I don't know where to put this book. I'm going to put it on the floor. The Little Friend by Donna Tartt. And I hope she comes out with a new book soon because she takes a long time. But okay, the next 5-star read is a recent one that I've reviewed called, very popular, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. This is a crazy book about a guy named Johnny Truant who discovers a manuscript in his apartment building called House of Leaves. And what that is about is the second narrative in here. This photographer named Will Navidson, who moves into a home that is larger on the inside than the outside. His house starts shifting around, and creepy and crazy things start happening. Johnny Truant's sections are him going through the text and leaving footnotes and editing it, as well as reading journal selections that he's written. And both stories are written in two very, very dissimilar styles. It's an incredibly interesting book. It is unbelievably well written. Not just from what it would take to construct something like this, but the writing. The shifts in tone and complete stylistic changes are so incredibly well written and authentic. That's what struck me about this was the writing is so phenomenal in here. There's also some really fun things in here. It's very challenging. I'd say this is the hardest book I read last year. It was actually quite a bear to get through at times. It was tough. It's very dense. And also, probably the most famous thing about this book is the formatting is absolutely fucking nuts. I don't even think I'm gonna, if I can. Here's an example. Yeah. So you're gonna get weird stuff like that. For me, the formatting almost always worked. I think I mentioned in my review, it was about 80% successful. I really thought it elevated the book, and I was really impressed by it. Sometimes it didn't work, but that's a book that will stick with me. I remember reading that late at night with just, I read it actually by candlelight a few times. And man, it's just a very atmospheric book. It's going to stick with me for a while. Great book. 2 more for you quickly. 5-star reads. And this is one of the funniest books I've ever read, and I love this book so much. It's so good, and that is Ant Kind by Charlie Kaufman. I'm a big fan of Charlie Kaufman's films and his screenwriting, and I knew that when he was going to write a book that it was probably going to be great, but I was curious how screenwriting translates into prose for a book, and his prose is great. He's a very good writer, and this is great. It's ridiculous. It kind of reminds me of something like Kurt Vonnegut would write, just very satirical and crazy and surreal and funny. Very clever, extremely well written. But this is the funniest thing I think Kaufman's ever done. It's just so incredibly funny. It's just consistently entertaining. It's a little long in the tooth. It's a long book. It's about 700 and almost 800 pages. And it gets totally off the rails at times, but it's just so, so funny. And as you can see, I actually started rereading it recently just because I love it. And my last 5-star read of the year, and this is probably my favorite book I read last year. And this was an incredible book. And this is The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. This is an Every Man's Library edition. It's freaking huge. It's like 1,400 pages. And this has the LA Quartet, which is The Black Dahlia, The Big Nowhere, LA Confidential, and White Jazz. The Black Dahlia was a fictional retelling of the actual Black Dahlia incident. You have 2 detectives who are trying to solve the case. And this is told, Ellroy's very popular, of course, but I had never read him. So I was expecting a good crime novel, but this was like transcendental, if that's the right word. Um, this is like a Raymond Chandler pulp novel, but with high literary writing. The writing is off the walls good. The characterization is fantastic, and he gets into a lot of deep stuff in here. I mean, it's incredibly well written. You know, a lot of times when you get those books that blend pulp fiction and literary fiction, like whatever you want to call it, literary light, whatever your preferred term is. Those books are great because you get the best of both worlds. You get a literary fiction novel with all the characterization and depth and writing that you want, but you also get a fun plot. But a lot of times it's like you kind of have to pick or choose one. Maybe they're a little bit light on characterization or vice versa. And in here, it's balanced perfectly. This is like high level academic. Like, I know that this book is taught at the collegiate level. It makes sense. It's incredibly deep, but it's also pulpy and fun, and it's just fantastic. So I had the most fun reading this out of any book this year. It's very intense, and it's a disturbing book at times, but man, it is fucking amazing. I really look forward to reading The Big Nowhere, which for some reason I have not read yet. I don't know why, but it's definitely on my list. So that's everything. Those are my 5-star reads. Not a huge list. I mean, there were plenty of like great reads, but those were the best for me. I'd love to hear what your favorite reads were last year. And of course, like I said at the beginning, any recommendations you have or anything, or if you just want to let me know what you're reading, that's cool too. I'm currently reading In the Woods by Tana French. It's a mystery book, detective book. She's pretty popular, but I've never read her. I'm like, I don't know, 60% of the way through. It's a great book so far. I really enjoy it. So I'll be back with something else, maybe a review of In the Woods. Who knows? Maybe a Blu ray movie thing. I don't know. I have no idea what's going on. Do any of us know what's going on? I don't really think so. Anyways, peace out. See you next time. Have a great day.